Hey everybody, this is Giancarlo Aulino reporting for the Game Plan and this special collaboration with sportsboom.com. We're going to be talking about UFC 320, which takes place on October 4th in Las Vegas, and we're going to be taking it from the coach's perspective. To help me out today, I'm happy to be joined by my guest, who is the head coach of Syndicate MMA. He is John Wood. How you doing, John?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on.
And John, big event coming up now, just a week away. What's it like for the coach when, fighters are in camp right now? We see what they go through as they wind down, but from the coach's side of things, like how hectic does this time of the year before the fight get?
Well, it's always the same. Like, you know what to expect in people's camps by this time. And I've been with these guys. I've been with Merab for almost 5, 6 years. I've been with Khalil for going 13 years, 13 plus years, 14 years. So you kind of know what you're going to get. But it's not even the fact of like that camp. It's it, we have 25 other camps going on too, and we're trying to, get all this stuff around. But when they're in that's such the magnitude of what these guys have going on, it does add a little extra. That's a huge night for us. That's a huge night for Syndicate. And now with Merab, being the champion, there's so much more that comes with it. There's so much more media, so many more things he has to do, so many more places he has to fly. So that's kind of, we try to get that done, enough weeks out ahead of time that we can settle in and focus on the camps. But the media stuff, and when you have, like I said, these magnitude of these bigger fights, it always takes up a little more time. There's always a little more camera crews in the room. There's always more interviews. There's people filming. There's places you have to go and do things. But these guys, both of those guys have been around and done it enough that they know how to settle in and focus in when the time comes. But yeah, it's a crazy but awesome time.
You mentioned Merab there. He has an inspirational journey even before he got to the UFC, from that looking for a fight, knocks out Stotts, and Dana White was there, even admitted on the episode they were there looking for Stotts, and
Oh, yeah.
Merab gets that big win and gets a contract. So what was your first like interaction and memory of meeting Merab?
It's funny. Like many people in Vegas, they show up because the PI's here and it's the home of the UFC. So you just every day. I mean, like today even, Malcolm Wellmaker was in here. Had no idea. Like I told you, King Mo. These guys every day. Someone shows up. They're in Vegas for something. So you get used to the fact of like big name people or just fighters or UFC guys coming in and getting work. When he showed up, I wasn't too like I knew who he was, obviously, and I'd seen some of his fights. Um, but I kind of like to get people to one see how they fit with our vibe and our culture and make sure it works for them and make sure it works for us. So I give everybody, when they come in a week period of like, hey, let's see how you like it and we'll go from there. And after the first week with Rob, it was like obviously the guy is a workhorse and he's just an interesting, different guy. He's just a ball, like a little ball of energy back there. But my first impression was, I don't know if I'm going to be able to work with this guy. I don't know because he's so all over the place. Even when you're teaching technique and doing things, it appeared that he wasn't paying attention. It appeared like what I tell everybody, he has MMA ADD. While you're teaching, he's over there sparring in the corner, just walking off or whatever. So I wasn't sure, and it took about a year process of him he was still going back and forth from New York. He would come in, and then I noticed he was great. He was a great partner for the guys. He was giving great goes, great work. And after he came in for a few camps and just spent more time and more time, and I could see that he worked in the room very well, and I hadn't really been working with him yet. And he had, like I said, he had been here for a few fights, and it was just one of those guys where I'm like, I don't think this guy is interested in having a coach. But we started kind of working together around the Jose Aldo fight, and started working like in. I realized that he had hung around enough that he kind of wanted to be in the room, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to start reaching out and seeing if I can get some work with this guy. We started kind of playing around on the pads and doing some things. And it was the craziest thing because when I started working with him too, I was like, man, I don't think this guy likes anything I'm doing or anything I'm teaching, like he's not into it. But then I would see him come back the next day at sparring, and whatever we had done or whatever I had taught, he would do it perfectly in sparring. He would it would be perfect. Like where I was like, that's weird. And then I paid more attention to it. I started working with him more and more and more and kind of putting things out there. And then just realized like that is how the man works. He is, it seems like he's not into it or paying attention, and and the dude just absorbs. I don't know if he's absorbing it through his ears or his pores or whatever it is, but he only needs to see things once or twice before he's doing it perfect. So once I kind of figured out how he learns and how to coach him, man, we clicked, and it has been the like something I would have never have guessed that would have worked out the way it has. Like we have just, like it's one of those things when you're coaching him. I just got done coaching him and sparring. Like I say things, it's almost like he can read my mind, what we're doing, what we're doing. It just clicks. Everything clicks perfect. I love it. He's one of my favorite guys to work with now. He's one of the most amazing guys I've worked with. Like things last night I brought in, Chris Brennan, the West Side Stringer, one of the old OGs of the sport, to work with him on some stuff last night. And I shit you not, for an hour of work tonight, he hit it perfectly in sparring today at a high level. So it's just once you figure out how to work with a fighter and how you click and how you connect, then that's what really makes a difference. And so I can stand here and say at first I really didn't think that we were going to get on. And I have never been so wrong about something in my life, and fortunately and glad I am, because it's turned into an amazing, not only friendship, coaching relationship, everything. Like he is he's the mascot for the team now. He's just such a great person, a great teammate, and just overall great dude.
And this fight coming up now with Corey Sandhagen, his third title defense already this year. We saw in January what he did to Umar Nurmagomedov. Sean O'Malley made it look easier than he did when he won the title. And now with Sandhagen, like his stock continues to go on the rise, pound for pound discussion. Like, what are your thoughts on just finally the recognition he's getting after piling up all those wins and establishing himself in the division?
It's amazing. I'm so happy for him. He's earned, and can honestly say he's earned and deserving of everything that's coming to him now. He's a funny dude. He's got a great personality. He's a great champion. He's a guy that will stay, till the last person's gone, to sign every autograph, to take every picture. The work ethic that he puts in and day out, is just, it's really unmatched. The things that he's doing as a champion are phenomenal, and the things he's doing even after he's won the belt, it hasn't slowed down. It's just gone even higher. The run he had to get there, because let's be honest, in the beginning, he wasn't very well liked. He wasn't very well liked by the fans. He wasn't very well liked by the UFC. There was, things that were going on. But over time, even not only even as coaching him in the fights, but like talking to him and learning teaching him how to, play the game and navigate the system of like what this sport. It's not just about who you fight, who you beat. It's how you do it, and what the perception of people is, of you. It means a lot. So he's worked long and hard to make sure that he's proven himself not only as a fighter, but that the fans. I mean, like the stuff you see on social media, that's really him. Like he's a funny ass dude. I'm always laughing around him. He comes up with these great creative things. All the things you see are his ideas. They're things that he does. So I think it really started to resonate with the fans around Henry Cejudo. Mexican Merab was born, and it really clicked, and that's where the fan base started to build. And then when he went out there and had a great performance, people still didn't believe in him, but they were starting to like him. He'd be, oh man, this dude's a funny dude. And then, after performance after performance after performance, the UFC eventually was like, we got something here. And now they've gotten behind him, and now he's one of the most loved, fighters in the UFC. The brass, the upper, all the top end guys love him. Everybody, it's very pro Merab. So it's really, really great to see all the hard work and the effort that he put in with with really staying true to himself. He never cut corners. He never, took an easy way, and it's all worked out as best as you possibly could imagine.
And he's making a strong case for himself as being the bantamweight GOAT because all the guys he's beaten, all the former champions, this run right now could set the record, tie it right now with if he beats Corey Sandhagen. Do you think if he does do that, like we need to end the debate there on who the bantamweight GOAT is?
I mean, listen, I think, and I've said this multiple times, his resume, I think the resume is already the best resume in the bantamweight division. It already is. There's no doubt, there's no question. Um, However you want to look at it, you can't argue with he has the best resume against the toughest fighters. And so again, if all of those fights were already title defenses, we're not even having a question. Like it's not even a debate. So I think he just has to defend that belt a few more times, and then I think that we're not even talking like bantamweight GOAT, but we're now talking about should he be up there on the Mount Rushmore of MMA fighters, and that's going to take some time. There's some great people. He needs to go out there and break a couple records before we get there. But I think the bantamweight GOAT is very attainable if it's not already happened. I think after this fight, we're basically doing a victory lap again and fighting a few people that we fought before. So, yeah, I think it's very, very feasible. I think it's very deserved. And I think he will go down as one of the greatest to do it.
I agree with you there. And just one more thing on Merab, like his cardio we've seen in fights where he doesn't even look like he's tired going into the fifth round, and he just ramps it up even more. The aggression puts that relentless pace on his opponents. Like when you're in the gym and you see this on a day-to-day basis, does it still surprise you when you see him hit that next gear?
Blows my mind every day. Every single day, especially sparring days, it blows my mind and everybody else around. Everybody leaves the gym just going like, how? Because the work output, he's still getting better as a fighter. So he's still evolving his game, his striking game, his submission game. So now he's gassing guys out twice as bad because he's now attacking submissions, attacking chokes. He's threatening, hurting guys with his hands. And so to add on, we haven't changed anything. Everybody always gets, oh, why are you going to change something that broke? We're not changing anything. We're adding on to what this man already does. You're adding extra layers of things that why wouldn't we work on that? There's no be the stupidest thing in the world to sit here and just say, hey, we're going to stay the same because people are going to figure you out. This game evolves. So the things he's doing now with the new weapons and the things that he's added on, it makes it seem 10 times worse. There's guys that used to, we're having to have at least 3 or 4 partners because guys are gassing out, guys are getting smashed, submitted. It blows my mind every day, and especially at the level of competition that he's competing with in the gym. We're not talking about just everyday Joe Schmoes. We're talking about, Aljamain. We have multiple world champion kickboxers in here right now that are phenomenal. Some of the best in the world that are working with him, and he's just, he's doing amazing things, So it really is. We're having to put bigger guys, bigger, stronger guys in there so that he can, actually go full at it. And it really is. It's something that is just mind blowing. It's mind blowing to watch this guy work.
And really look forward to seeing that fight. But before that, we got Khalil Rountree taking on Jiri Prochazka. A lot of fans are considering this to be a title eliminator based on their recent wins there. What do you think of this matchup for Khalil right now? Because Prochazka, how he's looked in recent performances coming into this with some momentum, and Rountree's coming off the win over Jamal Hill.
Yeah, hell of a fight, man. I would love to be able to just sit at home and watch this one, or sit in the front row and kick back and, have a beer and watch this fight. But I guess I'll have the best seat in the house. It's going to be a violent fight. It's going to be, I think, fight of the night, bonus of the night type of, fight. There is no doubt in my mind. I cannot see a world where this fight goes 3 rounds. And if it does, these guys' eyeballs are going to be hanging off. Their ears are going to be coming off. It's going to be a nasty fight. You're talking about 2 of the most violent men, strikers and just fighters in the sport that are going to go at it. And I don't think either one of them backs down. Yuri's got, he's all gas. There's not a lot of break there. Khalil's the same way. So it really is going to be a phenomenal fight. I can tell you this, that Khalil, this is, it's a cliche thing to say, but this is the best version of Khalil Rountree that I've seen in the last 13 years. The most focused, he really is focusing on MMA as a whole now, really knowing that, hey, there's some gaps and holes and things we need to fix, things that we need to add into, not even fix, but things we need to add to make sure that we not only get past Yuri, but are able to make a run at that belt and capture that gold. So it's awesome fight, man. As a fan, I love it. As a coach, I love it. Those are the kind of fights where he's just like, it's a coach's dream. It's a coach's dream and nightmare to have those two fights on the same card, not only on the same card, but back to back. It's a busy night, but these are the things you ask and hope and pray for, when you're getting started and coming up. So it's a really it's going to be a really amazing night for those two guys.
And also with Khalil, like he had that great performance against Alex Pereira where he took it to him in striking, which is Pereira's strongest asset there. But going past that, like how do you think he was able to recover from maybe coming up short in a title loss and now putting the steps in, putting the training in to get back to title contention?
I mean, one of the biggest parts to this game across the board is the mental part. It's this. If you don't have this, you're only going to go so far. It's the drive and the willingness to put in the work and the willingness to not quit when things are terrible, because a lot of times in MMA, things feel terrible. Sometimes they actually are terrible. That fight against Jamal, he tore his knee 4 weeks before, fully tore his meniscus. We didn't really do much. We were hitting pads in a stationary go. He's getting injections in his knee to be able to walk, to be able to move. There was no stability. So for him to go out there and perform like he did tells me, that this guy has hit the next level in belief, in believing himself, and the drive that he really does want this. And so it really is the mental part that you are never going to feel good. You're never going to be 100% going into these fights. And sometimes, you are going to, unfortunately, losing is part of the game. There's not very many guys, if only a handful, that ever make it out of the sport without losing. So that's something that you try to train into these guys before going in, that, hey, sometimes you're going to do your best and have your best night, and it's not going to be good enough. Sometimes you're going to just go out there and do everything you could have done, had a perfect camp, and you're still going to get your ass whooped. It's just part of the game. And so when you try to train that into them, we're never accepting of that. No one should ever be okay with losing, but it really is being okay that that's part of it, and it has to drive you to get better and want to come back better. And that's what it's done with Khalil. I think he had a taste of that. Oh man, I was this close from being, a world champion and achieving everything I want to achieve. And instead of going the other way, like, oh, or being lazy or coming up with excuses, just got back into the gym and worked harder, and that's what has made him show up for Hill and now show up for Yuri. And obviously, like I said, I think we're one fight away from being right back in there.
And you mentioned there, like, Khalil for a long time. And I saw the UFC when they did a piece on Khalil, just his backstory on overcoming obstacles in his life at a young age. What have you seen out of him and his progression from when he started his career till now at being one of the top contenders in the light heavyweight division?
Total change. I've watched him grow up not only as a fighter, but as a man, and it really has been such a big shift. Early in his career, he was touted, he was an underground, like people were like, this guy, I heard before I even coached him, I knew, the name, he was knocking out legends, that guys that weren't ever being knocked out sparring, and guys that were, he was Vanderlei's training partner, Anderson Silva's training partner, and those guys were talking about him. And if those guys are telling you, hey, this kid's going to be the next biggest thing, there's a good chance he's going to be. I just don't think early in his career that he was ready and prepared to take on that that load, that amount of responsibility that it comes to being this thing when everybody expects you to be the next biggest thing. Just wasn't ready for it. The big picture was too big. So over time and over, a lot of ups and downs and moving to Thailand and then coming back and we reunited and, both myself and him grew up a lot. I grew up as a coach and changed a lot of things that I needed to change to become a better coach for everybody. And, he came back at the right time when that process was happening and it just clicked for us, and we went on a hell of a tear. And he came back. I could just see as a better person, as a better, human and fighter. He was just ready for it. The maturity had hit of like, hey, we had a conversation. He's just like, I'm ready for it now. I'm ready to take that leap. And you can see that he is, and I believe it wholeheartedly. So it's just maturing. Some people, it takes longer than others. Some people are ready, get thrown in the fire, and they burn up. It's just too quick. But thankfully, the path has been the path because here we are, and it's been an amazing ride. But I've literally watched this man grow up into who he is, and it's been really impressive.
And just a couple final questions here, John. You've been very generous with us. Greatly appreciate that.
Good.
For you yourself as a coach, when you got into the sport, who were some of the role models that really took you under their wing and helped you improve as a coach and a mentor to all these fighters?
Yeah, I got into, coaching. I started the gym very early into my career. Just always knew I wanted to do this. I wanted to be a part of it forever. I knew I wanted to be a coach, more so than even a fighter, and I got lost in the shuffle. I was always around great people. So I was always around, like, Fall of Forest, around one of my best friends for years, wherever he was. And I get to see how he worked and see who he worked with. So I had a lot of good, different, ideas of how to train and what to do. But I never had anybody mentor me early on myself. So I was kind of lost in the shuffle of, really kind of figuring it out on my own. One person that I always give great kudos to was, through a TV show, reality show, I ended up meeting, Greg Jackson early on. And I started going out and working with Greg and, just seeing how he did things. And he really did kind of give me a lot of insight in a very short period of time of, hey, do things this way. Don't do things that way. Don't do what I've done in this area. Do this things. And then, through building an awesome relationship with him, he was the one who he put me, in touch with John Jones to coach John Jones' season on season 17. So instead of Greg, I took that spot as the coach on the show. And that really kind of helped catapult me into, oh man, this is going to be a really good thing. And, even really recently in the last few years, like I've obviously made a lot of friends and a lot of people in the sport. And somebody who I really look up to, I think is a great coach, is Marcus Bahumba out of ATT. He's a guy that I've leaned on and called. And every time I see him, I'm always asking him questions. And, in the last 10 years, I've gone to a lot of guys that have been doing it better and longer than I have and say, hey, how do you do this? What do you do? Like, what are your thoughts on this? How would you take this? How would you take that? And, he's one of the guys that has really helped me, figure some things out, how to kind of balance all the craziness. But I've been real fortunate to have some really good dudes that are competing, coaching at a high level that have made mistakes or have done it better than I have to kind of say, hey, look, maybe try this or try that, or, trust your gut. And one of the biggest things I've learned is to trust my own self, to really believe in what I can do. And when I started doing that, like I said a few years ago, the whole thing, the culture, everything just changed and shifted. And here we are. It's been an awesome run.
And while you were a fighter, was there like a actual, like maybe a fight or a fighter that inspired you to get into MMA?
Man, I'm one of those rare people. I literally watched the first UFC at my friend's house and on pay-per-view, and I was just blown away. I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is the thing. And coming up, obviously, Ken Shamrock was the first guy where you're like, That guy is so badass. As it evolved early on, Vito Belfort was a guy where you're just like, whoa, like this guy is a killer, knocking people out. I remember obviously watching his fight with Vanderlei and just early on stuff. He was the first like where kind of like mixed martial artist who a guy who was had ground game and striking and guys that I was watching like that, early before I even got into fighting. And then once I got into fighting, um, there's so many great fighters out there that you just like it's hard to choose anybody, but obviously GSP was such a phenomenal guy to go like, man, that guy has it all. That's a guy that's a stud. That guy that he was the epitome of mixed martial artists, a guy who could wrestle, could strike, could do everything, good ground game, so he's probably one of the first big guys were just like, man, that's the guy. We got to be like that. Who kind of changed the game. And it's unfortunate we don't have those kind of crazy stars anymore. And I don't think it's because of lack of talent. I think it's actually the opposite. There's so many good fighters now. The gap is so narrow between how good the next guy is that you just don't have those standout guys that were separated completely from the pack that you're just like, man, that's the dude. So I think, like I said, I always think GSP is one of the all-time greats.
I agree with you there. As a Canadian, I agree with that statement. So you're good with me there with GSP. Before we wrap up and let you go, John, how can our viewers and listeners follow you on social media and stay up to date with everything you're doing at Syndicate MMA?
Yeah, Bigwood MMA 702. My social media platforms on Twitter and Instagram, and then Syndicate MMA. That's our across the board for social media on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. So Bigwood 702 and Syndicate MMA. If you guys want to check out everything, we got a ton of fights coming up. Tons and tons of fights, tons of big fights, tons of awesome things. In the next few weeks, you're going to even hear about some more crazy stuff. Like we have the end of this year is going to be insane. So it's been such a phenomenal year and just so blessed and fortunate to have the team and the people around and people wanting to interview me. So that's pretty cool too.
Highly recommend that follow, John. I appreciate you sharing your time and coming on here on the Game Plan and Sports Boom to talk all about this and wish you all the best there on UFC 320.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.